welcome you on the program. This is THP, the happiest people on earth, the telecast program of the Full Gospel Business Men's Fellowship International Nigeria. My name is Oluwakumi Adedeji. Today, I have a wonderful couple as my guest on the program. They will share about God's faithfulness, God's goodness, and God's redemptive power in their home and in their life. My guests on the program today, they are engineer Orlando Tun and engineer Mrs. Idowu. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much.
Now let me start with you, sir. How did you come up in life to come to a stage of thinking that you needed Jesus at all in your life?
Thank you very much. It was a long journey, very long journey of a life of rebellion, a life full was more on the fast lane for destruction. It took a long time. My background is such that I had no need to even think I needed Jesus, because I was born basically in the Christian home to a Baptist minister's father. My father is a minister of 48 years, and I lived all my life, all my life in the pastoral. And because of that, family altar, having altar in the house was not a problem, because every morning there was a call for the altar, to the family altar, and in the night it's always a normal thing. So I would just say, like I used to say, that I live Jesus, I eat Jesus, I drink Jesus, I sleep with Jesus, and like the Jews, Jesus was like my senior brother. So I never saw any need that I needed Jesus in my life. And again, for the fact that I was born in that kind of setting, I lived a life of confusion. Confusion because, like many people they call me pastor's child. But there was this confusion where what you see outside is different from what they tell you at home. And when you get home to ask, why is it different? There's basically no explanation. All you get then is, you must do it and you must do that. And that led me to a life of serious rebellion. And that rebellion took me into heavy drinking, heavy womanizing, smoking, and all kinds of vices.
Now with those vices, did you go to church in those years?
I never went to church for 8 solid years, and yet I was living in the pastoral directly opposite the church. And you wonder how I made it, having to be a pastor's son. You know, it was a very big problem in my family, because my father is a very strict disciplinarian, and is such a person that the greatest sin you can commit is not going to church. In fact, it's worse than the sin of witchcraft. And for my father, you cannot even give me any excuse why you must not go to church. So it was an issue in my house on every Sunday morning, until I found the best way to go about it.
Now, did you carry this kind of attitude to the university?
Yes. In fact, right then, even when I was in university, it was still the same thing.
So you never went to church at all?
I never. Maybe the church in school, maybe because it's compulsory. But during the holidays, church is on vacation for me.
I'm going to come back on you, because I want the audience to know what actually now brought you to Jesus Christ. Now, what kind of life did you live? How did you come up in life, Mrs. Olaite, engineer Mrs. Olaite? How did you come up in life? Was yours similar to his?
Well, not exactly, because I was born into the royal Muslim family of the late Alaafin of Oyo. The late Alaafin of Babilu Badigeshi was my grandfather, and my father happened to be the first son, known as the Aremo of Oyo. So I was practically a good Muslim. You know, I practiced Islam. And when I was in secondary school, I went to Federal Government Girls College in Owerri, Imo State. And I became the president of the Muslim Student Society, you know, to tell you how far I went with Islam. And but there was something in me then, even though I was a practicing Muslim, I was always telling God that I want to know the truth and I want to know the right way. That consciousness was in me, that if the path I'm treading is not correct, then I want him to show me the correct way. So we had some SUs in school when I was in secondary school. They used to come to my corner. We call the little space you have in your room as corner. They would come and preach to me. They would do all sorts. And when those Hausa Muslims, when they see that those SUs are coming to my corner, they be wondering, my Muslim name, Kudi, they be like, Kudi, what are you doing with those girls? I said, I love them, let them talk. I want to hear what they want to say. So I always allowed them. I carried on until I finished secondary school. And when I finished secondary school, I entered the higher institution. I still continued telling God that I wanted to know Him. Because there is a God that we are praying to as a Muslim girl. There was a God that we were referring to as Allah. I would pray, and tell Him that if this is not the right way, I really want to know the right way, So when I entered the higher institution, there was a programming school, and some of the SU there invited me. And I was already going out with my now husband. So I told him that there was a program and they were inviting me. He was like, what are you going to do there? I said, just let's go. So we went. And while we were sitting down there, when the altar call was made, I just ran, to the altar, and that was how I gave my life to Jesus Christ.
What a wonderful story. Now let's come back on your engineer Idowu. So how did you detach yourself from that kind of life to now embrace Jesus Christ? What actually happened? Or was it the same night like ours?
It was far after then. In fact, that night itself was, I won't call it dead, I call it the darkest night of my life. Why? Because we met in school. I rushed her as a Janbite. I was in the final year. And, we were going to parties together. We were bedfellows. We were just compatible. And this, what she said, she invited me, because before she came in the earlier years, we used to persecute the SUs. And when she asked that day that we should go together, my own idea was to go and see how I'm going to persecute some of the SUs that were there. I was a big boy in school. You know what it means to be a big boy in school, and she was a girlfriend to a big boy in school. And when we got to this place, and altar call was made, I saw my girlfriend was weeping and shivering beside me. I was mad.
What a great embarrassment.
In fact, I wanted the ground to open from, because it's a crime to have an SU as a girlfriend at that time. I don't believe that it was, I decided, in fact, it was like a mutual thing that we should call off this relationship. And but she would not take to it. This led to 8 years of courtship, and finally into 2 years after our wedding, because we courted for 8 years and we wedded in 1989. Apparently, after we graduated from school in 1980, I graduated in 1982. So we worked together then, and all through that period, it was hell for her. I wanted to revenge for what she did. I went into that marriage with one basic thing, that is to take revenge for disgracing me in that way. But as long we have it, she was very committed, prayerful. I remember there was nothing. She went through hell in my hands. I would just put
all because you want to take Jesus out of her.
Out of her. In fact,
you grew up in a Christian home.
That is it.
You just wanted to depart from Jesus completely.
Jesus completely. That's to detach myself. I didn't even want to hear.
But did he do anything to you, Jesus?
He didn't do anything, but because I didn't see any, he was nobody to me. As far as I'm concerned, at least that name is apparently what I hear every day. You go to church, you go to family altar.
So you were just reacting to something.
It was a reaction. It was rebellion. Like I said, it was rebellion. And for her, it was great. I did several things. I can't mention. I did so many things to her, but she was resolute. She was very resolute. But all through the time, I never knew that God loved me so much. I was planning to change my life for good. Later on, my wife told me, after we got married, she told me that she changed our prayers from subtle to pragmatic. And what was that? She said she told God that God touch the comfort zone of my husband and make life difficult for him until he gives his life totally unto you. I never knew that. I didn't know when they went here that she and God had that agreement. But God honored her. And as soon as that happened, everything about me went still.
Everything.
Everything.
Those things that gave
everything that gave me confidence,
money,
and comfort,
fame, everything.
Everything. I began to lose everything. And I was.
What about your intelligence? Well, can't you battle it out with your intelligence?
Even the magic word that I used to use was no longer working. I couldn't understand what was happening. I had so much problem at the office. Even those who loved me became my greatest enemies. They hated me. The office was so hot for me, so that even going to the office was a nightmare. And I could not have an answer to what was happening. And in this state, that was where I was before I met the Lord.
I'm sure at home you want to hear the end of the story. We're going to go on break now, and then we'll be right back. We're going to hear more.